Hello and welcome to Life 2.0 Retirement Strategies. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Richard Pelletier of Help to Retire. So good to see you today.
Sarah, great to be here.
I'm thrilled. It's a good day to be talking about retirement, and I know we have a lot of topics to cover today, so we're going to try to get it all in.
Let's get to it.
I love your story. I think it's really unique because a lot of advisors or people in the financial industry got into it for a very different reason than you did. So I'd love for you to share your story.
Well, Sarah, I started as the administrator of a 200-bed nursing home fresh out of college. And let me tell you, what I saw was pretty depressing. Enormous expenses. When I got out of law school, I spent 8 years in and out of probate court at the other end of the cycle and saying that was a terribly inefficient way to transfer assets, very public. I said, I can do a whole lot better than this in the financial service industry. So basically our focus is many advisors are there to help you grow your assets. Our primary focus is to make sure you keep them. So there are a lot of things working against that. And I got to tell you, I had a client in the office just last week. They had about $500,000 of their life savings and retirement accounts. Their home had appreciated dramatically because of the real estate market. That was about $500,000 in equity. So technically they were millionaires. But they would acknowledge the first thing out of their bucket. They are too poor to be rich, and they were too rich to be poor. So when I start taking a look at their legal documents, and they were concerned about saving their assets from a nursing home as an example, I say to myself, my God, your legal documents are transmitting here, and your financial assets are transmitting on this station here. There's just no coordination whatsoever. It was a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, and that's something unique about you as well, because you do have a law background.
But I don't practice law. They're never going to get a legal bill from me, believe me. No, we want an open and honest dialogue with clients' CPA, their lawyers, so we coordinate probably for the first time. What I find is almost overwhelming majority of the cases is that their lawyer does not coordinate with the financial advisor. The financial advisor never talks to the CPA. And what you have is a hodgepodge, and there are great opportunities being missed, and or a lot of excess taxation is occurring when it doesn't have to be.
I think what we're seeing a lot is people who have, a stack of statements and they don't make sense with one another. All they know is, here are my statements, but there's no cohesive plan put together, and not one, group of people that are dealing with all those finances. Everything is part and parcel.
That's very true. And when I sit down with a client, quite often what I'll do is that I'll say, Bob, give me your statement from your IRA. And I take that statement and I look at that title page. It's Bob's IRA. Let's say it's with a major firm. I turn it around and I turn it to the wife and say, can I ask you a question? If he had a stroke tomorrow and you need to go into this account, he's not dead, but you need to take money out of that account to get him out of the hospital, get him home, get him some great care, hire some people, remodel the house. How do you, as the wife, while your spouse is alive, get money out of his IRA? You can't without a court order. Wow. That really strikes home to most spouses. Say, my God, most of our assets are in my IRA or my spouse's. We mean we don't have access? Not while they're alive.
So how can we avoid getting into that situation?
Well, that's when I talk about, let's take a look at those legal documents. And I take a look at the durable power of attorney, which allows your spouse to step in and help you when you're incapacitated. And what I find many times, they're taken off the internet. Engineers are known for that, let me tell you. Then you have a lawyer who's not an elder law and specializes in Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera. It's a guy that you go to church with who offloads this thing for him, puts it together, and it prohibits one of the main things I can do. I've testified as an expert witness at these hearings. And we can transfer assets from a sick spouse right over to the healthy one if the documents will permit it. Many times they don't permit it. So we're at catch-22, now you're in court.
So when is a good time to start preparing for these types of situations and planning for that?
We have a mantra in our firm. We operate on what we call the 6 Ps. Prior planning prevents pretty poor performance. All right?
So, say that 6 times fast.
The 6 Ps. If anyone is a Marine out there, you'll know I'm kind of plagiarizing that slightly. Prior planning does prevent pretty poor performance. So I would say at least 5 years before you retired, you start taking a look and get your attorney, your CPA working together and saying, listen, can these documents be slightly amended so our opportunity to save this money is expanded, not contracted?
So tell me, the people who are out there listening thinking, okay, no one's ever discussed this with me. Perhaps they have a broker that they've been working with, and that broker is, focused on accumulation and growth, and now they're looking to retirement, which is more preservation, correct? So tell me what this process is like when they come to see you.
Normally, it's a 2-interview process. The initial interview is complimentary. It's just a sit down, we're going to have a cup of coffee, and I'm going to ask them to fill out. When you go to a new doctor, you fill out all those forms out, what medication taken. We have them fill this out.
Okay.
And it basically, what are the concerns that they are personally involved in? They may be concerned about the taxes they're going to be paying on their IRAs, their large accounts. They may be concerned about how do I preserve these assets from the nursing home? How do I get this into a legacy format? I have a special needs child. We're getting a little older, and we're very nervous about that process. So they set the agenda for the first consult. No charge. I find out I can or cannot help them. Sometimes I'll say, listen, we're not a good match. And I'll tell them very quickly into that, you need a trust attorney, you need a special needs attorney, we'll refer you to somebody. Other times we say, listen, we can help you coordinate this. Let's set up a second thing, do a little bit of research, put you back into the second consult. Again, no charge. I still don't know until I do my research, can I help this couple? If we can, then we proceed.
And a good time, you were talking before about maybe within 5 years of retirement is really the sweet spot kind of to get on board.
Well, the reality is that would be my sweet spot. Usually what happens, they'll call me up and say, listen, I'm retiring next week. Yeah, I love that one. I said, this is not a magic wand, okay? So it's like an aircraft carrier. You're pulling into the dock and you need to make a dramatic course change. You're going to lose a couple of those planes in the back. It's much, much better to do when you're out approaching the harbor. So time is not your friend. You have a lot of things that you can do, even at the last minute, but I much prefer to have more time.
And we were talking earlier before the show about many, many more people are retiring earlier. I think, 2020 was a real pivotal moment for a lot of people, sort of reevaluating their priorities and maybe deciding they want to retire earlier.
Decades and decades I've been practicing in the financial field. I no longer practice law. I have never seen, with COVID, so many of my existing clients coming in and say, Richard, I know I was supposed to schedule to retire 2 years from now. I've had it. Get me out of here. So you start sharpening your pencil, accelerating the plans, and work a distribution plan so you can make it happen. Nothing gives me more joy. I had a nurse in the other day, and she was a hospice nurse, and they were stressing her out because it was short-staffed. And she sat down on my second interview and said, you guys have done a good job. Give me those tools. I can tell you right now, you can go back to your boss and tell him to take this job.
And
that's exactly what she did.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break. That number to call is 833-579-5500. We are going to come back after break and talk a little bit more about the 6 Ps in planning for retirement.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Life 2.0. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Richard Pelletier of Help to Retire, and we're talking about proper planning, which is so important in getting ready for retirement. I'm sure there's a lot of mistakes that we make that we could avoid when we get closer to retirement. So let's talk about that.
I think the biggest mistake I see and I would hate to say 100% of the time, but it's way up there, is a total lack of coordination between the existing team of advisors. They seem to not coordinate their activities at all. Let me give you an example. You've got a stockbroker. The stockbroker never talks to the attorney. The attorney never talks to the CPA, who do I bill my time at? And the CPA, he prepares taxes. That's all he or she does is prepare taxes. Now, that thing can get way out of hand. Let me give you an example. I had a client the other day. It happened an awful lot in the last year with COVID. He had lost his job early, I think it was March or April of that year, highly compensated executive. So what happens to the income when the major person who has income, let's say it was like $150,000 a year, bingo, it drops dramatically. The tax bracket dropped dramatically. Did the CPA say, hey, we have an opportunity here. You got a much lower tax bracket this year. Maybe we could take a chunk of dough out of your IRA, move it over into a Roth. He was relatively young. I think he was only about 62 or 63. His required distribution wouldn't have it for another 10 years. We had 10 years to take that Roth conversion money. Let's say it was 50 grand. His taxes still would have been lower for that year. Move the money out for a very low tax payment, and it would grow for the rest of his life tax-free. CPA never got involved, never suggested it until they crossed my desk and say, wait a minute, we got to move this pretty fast. We got till December 31st. Let's get with this.
Yeah. Well, I think, doesn't this happen frequently, though, that people work with a CPA and it's sort of, you're dealing with what happened in the past and you're not really preparing necessarily for the future?
I find CPAs fall into two categories. You have what I call basically the historian. And that's the person that you go into his office or hers in January, February, you throw down a bunch of paper and tell them this is what happened last year. That person computes all the tax and say, okay, you owe another $2,000. Historically, that's what's happened. We much prefer to work with that CPA and convert them to what I call weathermen. A weatherman goes like this in October and say, boy, the wind's blowing in our favor. We've got a couple more months. We can do a whole lot of things to save a lot of money tax in the future. Let's do this and this. So by having an open, honest dialogue with the CPA, with the lawyer, working with our office, we are focused like a laser beam on preserving those assets and not missing great tax opportunities.
Well, I mean, taxes are kind of the elephant in the room, right? But I mean, a lot of people don't understand the difference between tax preparation and tax planning, and there's a big difference.
I don't speak ill of CPAs and the role of preparing taxes, but most people can do that online today. You get all these different programs, and when you're retired, the taxes are relatively simple. However, planning in advance to preserve taxes, the 6 Ps, prior planning prevents pretty poor performance. That's done in October, not when it's too late and the die is cast. So again, working together collectively with the advisors, coordinate them for the first time, say, let's stop talking on these different frequencies, let's bring them into sequence and see if we can do something before we cause a problem.
This past year, we've talked before, has been, a real game changer for a lot of people. Aside from the health perspective, people are really reevaluating their priorities. And, a lot of people lost their jobs or changing jobs and careers, deciding to retire or maybe just moving. But they're stuck with, these 401ks they're not really sure what to do with. And I'm sure this is creating challenges for a lot of people.
Well, 401ks have an awful lot of conditions, terms, which you never know because no one ever reads the terms and conditions.
No one reads the fine print.
Are you kidding me? I have a rough time going through some of them. You have to be a Philadelphia lawyer with good eyesight and fine print, all right? What you have in a 401k is an employer-sponsored plan for the benefit of the employer, all right? Now, granted, there are a lot of companies now no longer making matches. So usually after 59 and a half, most large employers will allow a current employee to take money out of that, transfer it into an IRA tax-free. There's no tax moving it out of 401k under what they call an in-service rollover, directly to an IRA. What's the advantage of that? Well, the 401k, your investment opportunities are like this. Whatever the employer wants to let you see. The more aggressive forms in the marketplace, you never see. The more conservative things you never see. Once you're into an IRA, you hold a spectrum. If it's on the market, you have access to it.
Okay, so this is that appropriate for certain people and not others? There's limitations.
The magic word was if the plan allows it,
Okay.
And that's number one. The plan specifications have to allow people who are 59 and a half, because if you take money out of a 401k before you're 59 and a half, you're going to pay a 10% tax on top of your normal bracket. Now, under the COVID relief, there are certain exceptions for people because of the COVID situation. But generally speaking, I'm talking about a rollover at 59 and a half. You're in service. Next paycheck, you're going to put money still in your 401k. It's going to be matched by the employer. That's going to continue. But you're taking a portion of your 401k, move it into an IRA in our office where we can do a lot of asset preservation work, coordination with the lawyer and the CPA. Believe me, the custodian for the employer is not going to help you save taxes.
And when you say IRA, are you talking traditional or are you talking Roth?
Well, if you listen to me, it's initially an IRA, but my focus, like laser beam, is how much money can we take out of the IRA and shrink that over a number of years while raising at the same time the Roth.
Okay.
The Roth, the tax to you during your lifetime is zero. The life tax to your surviving spouse is zero. And most importantly, when that money goes to your children and grandchildren on a Roth, no tax. The IRA, whoever gets that money, is going to pay the tax at their highest tax bracket.
And if we're looking at a Roth and we're dealing with today's tax dollars, which we assume are going up, then that might be a good thing to take advantage of.
I always ask my client, I said, you watch the TV like I do. You're seeing what's going on in Washington. Do you believe really that only rich people are going to have higher taxes in 5 years? And everybody laughs when I ask them that question. Because I want to know, if you think taxes are going to be higher 5 years from now, 10 years from now, why wouldn't you pay a tax now, which you know is a lower rate than what it's going to be in the future? Taxes can be used as a tool if they're going to be used properly. Let me tell you what you use a tool improperly, you lose fingers. Okay? I know all about that. I didn't grow up and always wear a suit. So I grew up on a construction job. Tools are tools. Used effectively, they work in your favor. Use them improperly.
So for the viewers out there who are listening, give them an idea of what happens when they give you a call. What does this process look like?
What happens is we get them into the office. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about what's on their mind. I have no agenda for that first consult. It's complimentary. I want to find out, number one, where are they? What concerns do they have? And I want to know real fast, is there something I can do to help them? Sometimes I can't, and I will tell them right up front. On the other hand, I say, listen, if I can tell we're not a good match, I'm going to tell you, you can tell me I'm not a good match. I mean, we're all adults here. But that complimentary consultation, 9 times out of 10, is going to work to their benefit. They're going to learn something. I've been on the faculty of universities and colleges for years. My focus is they walk out of that and they've learned something that will help them preserve their assets, pay lower taxes, and plan better for their retirement.
I know you talked earlier about, seeing different doctors for different things, and this is so important because we get a second opinion when it comes to doctors, so why not get a second opinion when it comes to your finances? Because health and wealth are the two biggest things in our lives, right?
The evolution that people make in the medical field, you're a mother. 20 years ago, you had a pediatrician on the Rolodex on a regular basis. Well, now your kids are teenagers, they're adults. You don't disrespect that pediatrician. It's just you evolved, you don't need them. You may need another type of doctor. They don't have the same thing when it comes to their advisor or their lawyer. The lawyer who prepared the real estate closing when you bought your home 20 years ago may be a great real estate lawyer, but totally incapable of drafting the right documents to preserve your assets under Medicare and Medicaid regulations. So true for the financial advisor. Maybe a terrific guy as a stockbroker to help you grow your money, but what's his strategy to make sure you keep it? Or worse, distribute it so it doesn't run out of money. So
important to have somebody who's looking out for your best interests and really creating something customized and personalized. On that note, we're going to take a quick break because we have so much more to talk about. The number to call is 833-579-5500. It's a complimentary offer that I can't stress enough. Other advisors charge $1,000 or more for this process, and Richard's going to sit down with you and go over your finances and really give you that 6 Ps in proper planning that you can't really get anywhere else. Give us a call, and we'll be back after commercial and talk more about the pitfalls of retirement planning.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have, by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Life 2.0 Retirement Strategies. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Richard Pelletier, and we're talking about, I can't even say the 6 Ps like you can. The 6 Ps.
Prior planning prevents pretty poor performance.
Okay, good. I'm going to throw that to you every time because I don't think I could get it out. Talking about poor performance, we have all these baby boomers who are now retiring, and you're probably seeing a multitude of mistakes they're making in the process because it can get rather overwhelming for a lot of people. What are some of the big baby boomer mistakes we're seeing?
Well, think about the boomer generation in reality. Their parents had an entirely different retirement. They had a pension, they had Social Security, and they lived modestly. Baby boomers, not so much. Their advisor is an 800 number. Whoever answers that number is the advisor for the minute. Their tax payment is really a tax preparer. There's no tax planning, and the legal stuff is something else. And then you get down to the risk level, because now our generation are no longer savers, we're investors. Some of them are day traders. The risk level really can be way disproportionate at a horrible time in your life when you can't afford to make any losses. I've had situations where I had a client in the other day, and we were going through their different assets, and I discovered one of them was a very large variable annuity sold to them by a stockbroker. Well, you ever call an 800 number and they tell you, we're going to record this telephone call for your protection? I get to say, well, that's funny. We're recording this conversation for your protection. We call them up on a recorded line, and I start asking them 3 pages worth of questions on how this variable annuity really worked. The stockbroker forgot to tell them the expenses on this were 4.2% per year. This was a 6-year-old variable annuity. Forgot to tell them? Didn't disclose it. Not a fiduciary, okay, he's a salesman, basically. With a securities license. No obligation to disclose the line-by-line item of expenses. It worked out that they paid $63,000 in expenses that was not in their pocket, was in somebody else's pocket. The risk level was a little inappropriate because in that 6 years, they'd gone from highly compensated to now they were just about retired. Ouch, we need to crank that back a little bit. And that expense level was, in my opinion, I said, listen, if I told you I make my living managing money in the stock market. If I ever told you I was going to charge you only 4% per year, I'd be looking at the back of your head. Out the door you go. Absolutely. Fiduciaries, again, cannot earn a fee until they have a written agreement, full disclosure of what the compensation is going to be, and full disclosure of any conflict of interest they have. So fiduciary has a very, very different platform they have to operate under. Well, and you really are looking out for people's best interest. And as we talked before about, my needs are going to be different than yours, and we all have different needs in different phases of life. And finding somebody who's going to give you something customized to you and your needs is just so, so important. So let's let those viewers out there know, what exactly is this process like when they come to see you? Why is it different than maybe the stockbroker that they've seen in the past? Let me tell you that one of the biggest difference in our firm is we have multiple offices throughout New England. We have a large group of basically fiduciaries who all have a subspecialty. Jeff Harder, for example, heads up our Medicare division. You're going to retire every year. You need to take a look at your Medicare coverage. We have Matt Dunn, whose specialty, subspecialty, besides being a fiduciary, 25 years of experience in the security industry. He is a certified financial educator, is up and down the East Coast lecturing on Social Security. So I go through the entire firm and say, listen, it's not just Richard. You are going to need different professionals. It's a one-stop, all-services facility that we're able to offer these clients as they evolve through retirement. My specialty is you don't have long-term care insurance. No one has it. What happens if the unthinkable happens? Can we preserve the assets for the healthy spouse at home? The statutes will allow me to do it if things are set up in advance. The 6 Ps, prior planning, prevents pretty poor performance.
Why do you think you're not seeing people buying into long-term health care insurance?
Too expensive. Dad can pass it, but mom has a malady and I want to charge her 20% extra. And let's face it, that ship has sailed when people are coming into my office and they're going to retire next week and they're 66 years old. You buy that stuff in your 40s and 50s. You do not buy it when you're 60 or 70 years old because you can't pass a physical. You take a look at the premium, woof, now you're going to have a stroke. So what's plan B? Plan B is you say a rosary bead and you hope for the best. And the vast majority of the time, that's going to work. Not everybody lands up in the nursing home. But if you live long enough, my mother's 95 years old. At some point, we realize the mattress weighed twice what she did. She can't change the sheets. So you get a housekeeper in, change the sheets. As we get older, we become frail. So home health care. We do community mass health applications to help people get assistance at their home. So we're a full-service organization. You're not going to find that at a stockbroker's office.
And proper planning on these things takes the stress away so that we can enjoy those golden years of our life too, right?
Retirement is about playing golf, getting that hobby, taking that course you've always wanted to, or maybe donating your time for the church. It's not about worrying about different things that may never happen.
So there's no risk in this call. There's no risk in this conversation, really, that's happening. All people need to do is call that number, 833-579-5500. They're gonna call your office, and someone's going to set them up with an appointment to talk to you. All they need to do is fill this form out and bring their statements.
That's all they have to do.
Sounds pretty easy to me.
Well, we like to make it easy because there's an awful lot of procrastinators out there.
I think that if 2020 has done anything for us, maybe it has helped us not procrastinate because we're realizing we don't know what tomorrow may bring, and so better to plan.
It's been quite the educational year, that's for sure.
Maybe not the education we knew we needed, but we actually really did. So again, that number is 833-579-5500. Again, this is complimentary. This is a service that other advisors charge $1,000 or more for. And Richard's going to sit down with you and give you this service for complimentary. So there's no risk in that call. Even if you've seen another stockbroker, if somebody hasn't discussed these things with you, now is the time. Just like you'd get a second opinion from your doctor, you're going to get one from Richard. And we always run out of time before we get to discuss everything, so we'll have to do it on the next show.
Not a problem.
It's been wonderful being here with you today. And until the next time, we'll talk about those 6 Ps, which I can never, ever repeat.
Prior planning prevents pretty poor performance.
I love it. It's great being with you here today.
All right.